We continue our journey into the remarkable red record as it relates to creation, and we dive into a mailbag that is bursting at the seams. This is Genesis Week. And welcome to this episode of Genesis Week, the weekly program of creationary commentary on news, views, and events pertaining to the Origins controversy, made possible by you, the supporters of CORE Ottawa, Citizens for Origins Research and Education. Excellence in pirate broadcasting, coming to you from our top secret studios just outside of Squirrel Depot, Ontario. We hijacked the broadcast signal of the Miracle Channel. Don't tell them, okay? That'll be our little secret. But by taking over their signal, we are now broadcasting right across Canada via cable and satellite. We are also being carried down in central Michigan on GNS TV, all around the world on the Genesis Science Network, and of course on the internet, on Rumble and YouTube. Remember, if you get lost in cyberspace, you can find us at genesisweek.com, or on my Rumble channel, or on YouTube at wazulu.com. I'm your host, Ian Juby, joined momentarily by my co-host, Al Vachon. Today is Sunday, January 21st, 2024. We're going to pick up where we left off in our previously recorded live stream, examining the Walam Olam, otherwise known as the Red Record. Is actually composed of three spirits. So this gets a little wild. So remember, this is from 1835, okay? And we don't know how old the Walam Olam is, but presumably before the time of the missionaries. So, and this has been passed down through the centuries, and all of this, the memorization and song and hand signs, the storytelling, all of this was specifically so people would easily remember the story. That was the purpose of it all. And so...
And isn't this really the precursor to modern day sign language as we know it today?
Yes, the Indian hand signs, correct. It was actually the inspiration for ASL. They took it and ran with it. And sadly, right, they replaced, as part of that whole, here we go with those words that I was forgetting last time we did this, concerted effort to eradicate the red man and replace him with white man, trying to remove the Indian, which included the hand sign language, unfortunately. But yes, you are correct. It was the precursor to ASL, and they replaced the Indian hand signs with ASL and forced them not to use Indian hand signs anymore. So that has almost been lost to extinction. Thankfully, there's still some people practicing it, but... So Rafinks translated this, again, when God, creator, he made the spirits or makers. Brinton retranslated it, anew spoke the great Manitou, a Manitou to Manitous. And McCutcheon, in 1995, translated it, again, the Great Spirit created, the Creator spirits. So what I've been doing with all these glyphs is I've been looking at these three guys, these three translators, and adding in my own translation and interpretation as I could. I'm still very much an amateur. I freely admit that. But I'm going to explain my case. These three spirits that are in the glyph, no one seems to have really understood it. And There was a meme I wanted to share. I could not find it today, so I don't know if I could have even shared it on TV. But it was basically one of the Christian memers on Facebook made this meme where the guy was trying to come up with analogies for the Trinity, and it caught fire, and this was heresy. It was hilarious anyway. So
I think I've seen that one.
yes, you can picture it. So really, I think that's what's going on here, is because what they are attempting to show in this glyph, they are basically trying to depict the Trinity and trying to explain the Trinity in both hand sign language and in glyphs. I think that's what's going on here, because why else would they have three spirits? It doesn't make sense otherwise, especially when you consider. So let's take a look at this word right here, kitanatuwit. I'm going to try that again. So this is a very unusual word. So from nativelanguages.org, they had a very nice write-up here, and I just want to read that write-up because it's very pertinent to this translation, because you notice he has it translated, Rafinks translated it as God Creator. But listen to what they said. Unlike most other Algonquin folklore, Lenape stories sometimes personified the Great Spirit as a human. Interacting with the Lenapes, other Lenape myths treated Kitanatuwit as a divine spirit with no human form or attributes. Kitanatuwit and Kitan were used as translations for God in early translations of the Bible into the Lenape and Wampanoag languages. I probably butchered that pronunciation. Oh well, I'll try. And indeed, many Algonquin people today consider the Creator and the Christian God to be one and the same. So what they were apparently, with this very unusual word and very unusual glyph, they were trying to convey a very complex message, picture. And this other word here, lapinup, so lapi is the root word for again. So I have not been able to find this word in modern day Lenape dictionaries. But from 1885, Brinton does point out to this word, and it's an important word. He cites a Mr. Anthony, which I believe was one of the Moravian missionaries who first reached out to the Lenape and trying to learn their culture, learn their language, etc. And he points out that Mr. Anthony translates this word lapinup as again he spoke. Now this is really important, because let's back up and take a look at this verse again, and we'll take a look at my translation. If we take a look in Genesis, all throughout the first chapter, over and over and over again, and God made the beasts of the earth, and God said, and so God created man in his own image. Over and over and over again, it's talking about God singularly. Then suddenly, in verse 26, and God said, let us make man in our image. Hold on a second here. And this is the first indication we have of the Trinity in the scriptures. So I think this is the problem that the Lenape ran into in trying to describe this, because it's singular and then suddenly it flips. Now it's plural, and then it flips back to singular again. So for example, oh yes, I wanted to touch on this first. Another thing, of course, which many of you will already know, is when we read the scriptures, you're never just going and reading one verse, right? Do you know the big long words for that, Al?
No.
So just like with scriptures, eisegesis and exegesis, you never just look at one verse. I would suggest we do the same with the Lenape prayer sticks. So when you look at this, here it is, again, the Great Spirit created, the Creator spirits. But it goes on, the Great Spirit created, the Creator spirits, living beings, immortals, the souls for everything, then the Spirit ancestor, grandfather of men, etc., etc. So it's, when you look at it in context, it's the introduction to a series of things that are created. So, with all of that in mind, here is the translation I came up with. And hopefully you can grasp why I came to this conclusion and to this particular translation. So this is after much debate and prayer and looking up words that don't even exist anymore, because the Lenape language is just like Old English and New English, modern English. The words change, some become extinct or disused. Some of them change meaning, like in Old King James, the word let would actually means to hinder. Whereas in modern times, if we let someone do something, it's permissive, it's not hindrance. So things like that. So this was a lot of work. But with all of these things in mind, this is what I came up with for this verse. So verse 1, chapter 2, book 1. Again, the three creator spirits, Kichi Manitou, spoke and created. So the reason I came up with that is because you've got the three spirits indicated in the glyph, and it is referring to this glyph as Kichi Manitou, the creator spirit. So just like in Genesis, where it's God created, God created, God created, then God, singular, says, let us make man in our image, plural, and then it goes back to, and God made man in his image, back to singular again. So this is why, these are all the reasons why I translated this in such a way. So this is my translation, which incorporates the other translators, but also my understanding of the glyphs, how they work, their interpretations, and the interpretations of many of these words which no longer exist even. So this is what I came up with for verse 1. And it's quite profound, because why, I mean, three spirits? It's remarkable. So let's move on to verses 2 through 5. So again, we're just going down the prayer sticks now and taking a look at the glyphs in sequence. So as we go down the prayer stick, singing the song, verse by verse, here's the next verse. First beings. So I'll just back up a second. So the verse that I had, the first verse, again, the three creator spirits, Kichi Manitou, spoke and created the first beings, mortals, soul, and all. Then he created the grandfather of men, and was forever after the spirit ancestor. The grandfather of men was made of an island, or made of land. Now, this part is from me again. Did I put a slide up there? 1 second here. I did not. So hopefully everyone in the live stream can see this. On TV, I'll blow it up big so you can see it. This glyph right here, I stumbled on this one today. All three translators missed this point. I'm not sure why. And I think it's because Rafinsk was going by, he was translating the verse, the words, right? Not the glyph. But in this glyph, where he's talking about the grandfather of all men, right down here at the bottom is the line for earth and the symbol for island. Nobody noticed this, and nobody talks about it. So I have included that in my translation of this verse because it's there. I may be wrong on this point, but I don't think so. So it also, another reason why I'm translating it that way is because it is also consistent with even the rest of the Red Record, as you'll see as we move along, because the first man, this was the first, we talked about this previously multiple times, Al, the first Red Man.
Yes, we did.
He was, do you remember why he was
Yep.
called the Red Man?
The soil of the earth was red.
Bingo.
Oh, I'm trying to recall exactly, but yeah.
Because the first man was created from red earth. That was the story,
Right.
including in the Lenape. So this is consistent. That translation would be consistent with the rest of even the Red Record, but also consistent with the other stories, legends, and creation myths from the Lenape, as well as the Algonquinians, the Cree, the Ojibwe, everybody. I mean, it's all over the planet, literally. So nobody has noticed this, and I'm not sure why. But anyway, because the glyph includes the symbol for land or earth and an island, I'm not quite sure how that plays in, except that probably he was created either on an island or on the earth or from the earth or from an island. So that's why I put it this way. He was made on an island or made from the land, one or the other. Okay, so I leave that open.
Right.
But that's why I translated that one that way. The next verse, again, remembering.
You know, in our last show, I'm sorry, in the last show that we talked on the Red Record, I had mentioned ancient Chinese language as well, and the imagery and how it pertains to the origins. And it's amazing if you research that as well. You're going to find, for example, the ancient Asian language. When you look at the flood, it's a mixture of their imagery where they add. Let me just pull it up here. I don't have it on the screen, but I'll just describe it. So they add flood plus water plus total plus together and earth, and then 8. If you add all those symbols in the ancient language, it's their word flood. And there's many more. Boat. So this is the ancient word for ark or boat, and it's vessel plus 8 plus mouth or people, 8 people. When you add them together, it equals boat or ark. And it goes on, garden and create and all of these other ones. It's very similar in this sense that they mix a bunch of different images to create one to tell a story. And I think it actually, we could see this in languages around the world. It's amazing how we could see it here and then in the ancient Chinese language as well.
Yes, and we should do a show just on that topic alone, because that's a fascinating topic.
We should.
The ancient
It
Chinese
really is.
characters. And just as you were talking, I remembered a very, very important point I almost forgot. This point about the land or island in the glyph. This, I think, adds powerful authenticity to the Red Record. And here's why. None of the translators noticed the land or island. Raffinsk himself never mentions it. Nobody includes it in their translation. If this was a hoax and someone was hoaxing, say, Raffinsk, you would think that if they had put that in as part of the hoax, they would have brought it up. But nobody brought it up to Raffinsk. It's not in the verbal song, and Raffinsk didn't point it out. So if Raffinsk had hoaxed all of this, surely he would have pointed out the land and the island in the glyph. He did not. So I think this is powerful evidence that the Red Record is authentic. It is an actual, historic, authentic Lenape record, the Red Record. And it is not a hoax. I think this is powerful additional proof, even on top of what we had before. So all those verses, then we get down to this verse. I forget which verse we're at now. I think this is verse 4. Then he gets, so get a load of this. So we've got notice the grandfather of men was the first one that was created. And the spirit ancestor will forever be their, I believe the word benefactor was what one of the translators used. But the creator will ever be his spirit ancestor. So the first man, his only ancestor was the spirit creator, according to the Lenape song and Red Record. So then man is created first. Get this. Then he, the creator, gave him the first mother of beings. So man is created first by the creator. Then the creator gives him a woman, gives him a wife, the grandmother of all beings.
The Complete Creation video series is just that, an exhaustive look at the science, philosophy, and theology behind the creation-evolution debate. In this 40-part series, Ian Juby walks you through the debate, starting with the philosophical premises and limitations of science. Then, the surprising history of evolutionary and deep-time beliefs. You then walk through the evidence for creation from biology, geology, physics, paleontology, and archaeology. Chances are, any questions you have about the creation-evolution debate is answered in this video library. The series is both entertaining and educational, and suitable for personal study or homeschoolers. This 40-part series is available on a 20-disc set in either standard definition DVD or high definition Blu-ray, and is on sale now. Order your hard copies today online at our store at ianjuby.org.
Mail for me? Ah! Yep, that's the one. East Vietnamese jumping spider. The venom is so strong that one bite can kill any child and 95% of adults. The surviving 5% typically slip into a coma for 3 to 6 months, only to wake up with permanent paralysis. We have probably had more viewer feedback on our series of episodes surrounding creation and the First Nations legends, myths, and storytelling than any other show or series of shows over the past 11 years. And the feedback has also been more enthusiastic than I have ever seen before. Further to that, your comments have added a tremendous amount of light to the conversation. The problem I've run into is I've kind of been overwhelmed by your response. I'm not sure that it's possible to answer and respond to all of these fantastic and often very lengthy responses. So I will summarize my response to all of you as thank you. Thank you for your comments and feedback. Please keep it coming. I am reading them, even if I'm not directly responding to you. But I have never before seen such comments like RLB over on Rumble. Holy mackerel. Or Majeur, also on Rumble. Zoiks. Holy written record, Batman. Seriously, this is just mind-blowing. Several people also pointed out my complete and merciless butchering of the pronunciation of the word Lenape, referencing the Lenape First Nations of the American Northeast. Alfred Shumate commented, "It's pronounced Lenai Lenape. I'm from New Jersey and regularly find their arrowheads." Dr. Rios also posted an appropriate big red post in response on Facebook. "Watching Red Record Part 2 in New Jersey, we pronounced Lenape as Lenape." Thanks to all of you who wrote in that correction, especially for the New Jersey guys chiming in from the heart of Lenape territory. You are correct. It's funny because I've now spent over a year in studies of over a dozen different First Nations languages and dialects to be at least familiar with them. I'm an instructor with an educational organization that provides instruction on 160 different First Nation schools across the entire expanse of Canada. And we, as instructors, are expected to introduce ourselves in the properly pronounced local dialect. The Lenape language is considered an Algonquin dialect. And you would think that I would have figured out how to pronounce Lenape even if I had never actually heard the word said before. Obviously, I did not. And because I said it as Lenape throughout our entire live recording, all throughout our next show and possibly the one after that as well, you are going to hear me mispronounce it for the next several weeks. So thank you for the correction, and I apologize in advance for the travesty I'm about to inflict upon you all. All right, I'm out of time for this week. Please join us again next week, where we will continue our look into the Red Record, continuing our journey through the song sheets, recording the creation account and history bearing remarkable parallels to the biblical account. But as you will see, the Red Record also contains major events in Earth's history, written down decades to centuries before the scientific community would even propose these events as theories. Events that today are virtually considered fact by both the evolutionary and creation science communities. So I hope that keeps you coming back for more. I will once again leave you with those words of hope and warning from our Creator, the Lord Jesus Christ, who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me." God bless you.
You can send your comments, questions, hate mail, and letter bombs to us in a number of ways. You can email comments at genesisweek.com, or you can tweet at GenesisWeek. Or leave a comment on CORE's Facebook page at CORE Ottawa. Or leave a comment on the appropriate show available on either the Rumble channel, rumble.com/user/IanJuby, or on the YouTube channel, which you can easily find by going to wazulu.com, that's Ian, and that'll take you straight to the YouTube channel. But just remember, these shows are now recorded live, so you'll want to search out the show under the Live tab. We need your support to keep this program on the air, so please pray for us. And if you wish to financially support the program, Canadians can make a tax-deductible donation via PayPal online at ianjuby.org/donations. Or you can mail a check written out to CORE, Canada North, Post Office Box 72075, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, K2K 2P4. And thank you for your support.